Crazy Camp Life, Votes, and Tribals, the life of a survivor is more than you see on TV. So if you need the scoop on island survival, crack a coconut, put on some rice, and let's spill the immunity. Oh, I'm hearing myself in the background. Why do I hear myself in the background? Good morning, everybody. Oh my God, I'm talking to myself out loud. Isn't that weird? Can you imagine how many people do that on the island? I would imagine like a lot of people are like talking to themselves.
All day, I would.
All day. Because that's what I would do.
Yeah.
So. Well, we had Carolyn, right? Carolyn, I think she was the biggest offender of that.
I love that Carolyn did that. She still does that. She's like that in real life. I have a feeling is she does it all the time because she's done. I've been watching her reels and her stories, and she's had like so many things where she's just been like, yes, this is really me. Yes, I really do those things. Yes, I really like that. Like you didn't see anything like put on for TV. That's just who. You know, it's funny because we're all podcasters, right? We all do our things and we all have our moments, and people are just like, are you always like that? And we're like, yeah. We might be like a level up, but like, yes, this is just who we are. We are just this weird and crazy, and that's okay. She made it okay for all of us. So I had a good time talking to her yesterday. So I'm hoping to see her on the show soon. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? What do we think?
Morning.
Who wants to jump in?
I mean, what are we doing with another quitter? Trent, what do you think?
Well, before that, I was going to say, Julie really reminds me of Carolyn. They had, like, the impression I got from this episode was that she's, like, Reba Strong. She's, like, and then, I don't know, it was just, like, a quirkiness about Julie's personality that came out this episode that I don't think we had seen before because we had a very, like, stern version of her, like, our impression of her so far. So that was a big standout for me. So, you know, maybe that turns into something else along the way because she doesn't have to be the mom. If she's actually playing, and you know, if funny enough, like what Bruce said, you know, it's time to stab people in the back. You know, it's just like that was a big standout for me during this episode.
100%. I saw that. I think she's going to be sneaky about it too. I don't think she's going to be overt about anything. You're not going to really know when she's doing that, but I think she's completely capable of it. And she showed it this week that she's, you know, I'm going to do what I need to do and be sneaky if I need to be. So I like that about her. I still think that's a great quality. I think that's the best way to play.
I feel like she was the leader on the decision to go against Sifu. I mean, Jay and Maya, the reason why I say that is because Jay and Maya ended up not voting Sifu, which was the surprising thing at the very end for me. Like, what do you guys think about the psychology behind that? Why didn't Jay and Maya still vote Sifu, even though her vote the vote would have still gone Sean? I think, Sean could have voted himself out. I don't know why he voted D. That was weird.
He can't vote himself out.
Oh, he can't?
No, you can't vote for himself. So he put D as a castaway vote, like no one's voting for her. So I'm going to make sure that whoever I vote for doesn't count to get somebody else out. Because he knew that they had talked about getting Sifu out. So he certainly wasn't going to vote that way if he really wanted out. I don't know. Right. I had some thoughts on Sean's whole thing. You know, like part of me was almost like, maybe he's just playing along with our whole plan. Don't worry about what we say at Tribal. We're going to say stuff about being Reba Strong. We're going to say all these things. We're still going to vote this way. Yeah. So I kind of like, part of me was like, what are you doing? Like,
is this strategy?
Is it strategy? Are you, what are you doing?
Right.
And we've seen people be like, just vote me out kind of thing. And it's kind of a quit. And I know that Jeff doesn't like it, but I also saw in Jeff that he was really paying attention to his reasoning and like saying that he got so much out of it. I think that was really like, that's always important to Jeff, that it was the experience that mattered the most. So I was just really thankful for that. I was like, oh, okay, good. This is, I don't know.
I felt like there was a frame there that kind of supported your thoughts. And I thought the same thing where Sean looked over towards D, and I felt there was like a wink, like I'm putting on a show, I'm putting on an act here to like, sell this Reba Strong, mentality. But then then it did turn into. I had to Google if you can get married as being gay in the LDS church, because he says he's Mormon. He says all these different things. I'm like, can you do that? I don't know if you can, but it was a lot, and I was just like, wow, what is this story? The story is all over the place. So that's kind of why I thought it was a ploy, but then in the end, it was what it was.
Yep.
Isn't there why? I mean, so many seasons of Survivor, but isn't in an early season, I feel like someone was asking everyone to vote them out, and then they just didn't. At Tribal, like they voted for someone else instead. So, I mean, I was just so disappointed to see another person leave. And the thing is, like on Big Brother, when someone gets voted out before pre-jury, you just go home and you watch the season. But on Survivor, you have to go to Ponderosa, and you're there. And they used to keep everybody there for the whole season. And then in more recent seasons, they send pre-jury home on one trip and then jury home after. So even though he's saying, oh, I want to go home, to my husband, I understand, but I'm like, but you're not. Like, you're going to be there still for a few weeks. So why not play and see what happens? That's the part that I didn't get, because it's very different than if you walk out, like I think last season, Paloma quitting Big Brother. Like, she just got to go home. She was done and that was it. So that's the part that I didn't get, because you have to stay until they make it to jury. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, why not give it? Same with Hannah. Why not just see what happens? You have to be there anyway. I'm sure Ponderosa's cushier, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get to Zoom call your husband on Ponderosa. Yeah,
fair. You get to you can FaceTime or whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah. It does kind of seem like, why quit? You're already out there. You've already made the long flight. Was he really going to go far? Probably not. But yeah, I don't understand the quitting early and why he would do that. And it was completely unexpected. He didn't even mention it before. Like you said, he just all of a sudden at Tribal, a flip switched and he had to go. Yeah. And I was kind of happy because I actually like Sifu, and I don't think he's playing. Yeah. And I was excited because I think this woke him up. That Fair. One vote, his eyes, and he's like, okay, maybe I should actually play this game. This isn't about staying Reba strong, Red strong. So I like that he at least got one vote, so it could kind of snap him into the game, because I think he could be a strong player. He's a dynamic person. But like I said, I think he's too blinded by these fake alliances, and he doesn't see that people aren't really connecting with him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to follow up to you, because last week, you clarified the shot in the dark, right? And talked about what the components are there. And Sean mentioned the shot in the dark prior to going into Tribal Council, thinking that he was going to still be in the game. And so that kind of left us on a cliffhanger in a way, as far as up until he said, or Jeff asked the question, what does it mean to him? And he's like, oh, you opened up the gates. And then from there, we were all shocked, I think. And then what that led to, and you've had D in your top 3 the past few episodes. We got blindsided by D's vote against Sifu, which was what I was kind of confused by, because I would have expected that to have come from Jay. And from it to come from D, I think that's what's going to break down Reba.
I was wondering, because I think what could have happened is that it was so confusing and out of left field that they didn't have time to make a plan. And, some people in previous seasons of Survivor are like, no matter what happens at Tribal, you stick to the plan. If we say we're voting somebody out, that's who you vote, because you don't have the time to look at each other and scramble. Although there was one season I can think of where Jeff was like, are you guys changing your vote right now? What's going on? But I think there was mass miscommunication there, because I can't imagine that Dee would throw herself out there like that. I do think she's a strategic player and a smart player. So it must have been full-blown miscommunication, and she was doing what I think maybe everybody should have done, which was stick to the plan. And now there's all kinds of things to deal with.
Well, they couldn't whisper, because then that would give Sifu the understanding, why are they whispering? And,
what's there to talk about?
Leave them out of the loop, so they couldn't even communicate.
That's
you saw them kind of giving them wide eyes to each other. But
do you think that's gonna hurt Dee's game? Because it kind of, if Sifu starts to talk to Julie and talks to Jay Maya and says, hey, was she slow to pick up that Sean was being real, that Sean was ready to just be out of the game, that he was going to give up his spot because there were other better players in the game that could continue. I think Dee's now a big target, and I think that we saw that in the preview as they're walking back and everybody's so shocked and in disarray about the whole thing. Because now Sifu's got it on the hunt, and now everybody's a target, has a big target on their back.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we could talk about tribe swap here in a minute, but Dee didn't get a very good tribe swap, right? And she said this is when you know who's a good player, is when you have a bad tribe swap and they have to kind of navigate not having a very good not having an alliance, right? Having to rebuild a whole new alliance. So yeah, it could definitely hurt Dee, but I think it's going to come back on J Maya because she really led it, and she just doesn't seem very, I don't know, tactful in her approach. She seems to be very kind of heavy-handed, and the three women, Julie, Dee, and J Maya, just wanted to stay together, right? But she was really the driver behind wanting to get Sifu off.
Yeah, for sure. There's some people just picking targets that it's like, why? It's too early. Even Katura, targeting Bruce, because he's annoying. It's okay. I get it. When you're out there with nothing else to do, you can't go just go on your phone and ignore somebody. So you got to listen to him all day. But it doesn't feel like a good enough reason. And the targeting of Sifu feels maybe a little early when Sean was the easy vote to keep everyone together,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think it was really good of Sifu to, when he was saying goodbye to Sean, to be like, did you vote for me? And he's like, no. Because it was it was this random, his random vote was D. And so it just kind of, that was good wherewithal for Sifu to pay attention and be like, okay, this is not adding up. And somebody voted for me. And I don't think it was any of people I'm stuck with now. I think Sifu is a lot to handle. There's so much I want to talk about today. Oh my gosh, I can't even get into it. So maybe we start with camp life. So, because we've had a couple of things that we were talking about. I think Sifu is difficult around camp, just like Bruce is. I think that their personalities are really big. They're a little out there and crazy. Which we saw last season with Carolyn, and we saw it with Yam Yam. And so it's not going over as well this year. It's not going over the season with those two around camp because Kat's not liking Bruce and his shenanigans. And I think even it might start to wear on some of the other people around Bruce with his, because it's a lot. If it's all the time, it's a lot. But with Sifu, that's just who he is. I watch his Instagram. I see all the crazy stuff that he does. That's him. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how much that shakes things up. And if it will come out that Jay was the one that kind of started the ball rolling on that. And then Dee just got stuck following the plan. So I think it'll be interesting, but I think camp life is really important. We were talking before we came live today, and I had a question. What the hell are they eating? We haven't seen them eat the whole season, except for the reward
challenge.
Exactly. They like grapes. Grapes were cool.
Grapes
I get it.
Were great.
What are they eating? What are they doing for food?
Yeah, where's the fish? I want to see the fish. They used to show that stuff, right? And I always it's impressive. First of all, I could never get out there with a spear and come back with dinner. So I would not be that person. And I like to see that aspect of camp life. Yeah, I'm so curious. Coconuts? What are they eating?
Well, you do see Emily chopping coconuts open.
Yeah, you do. A little bit of coconut.
But I was wondering this too, because I've been watching past seasons, and Ozzy's getting these giant clams out, and they're eating raw clam, and they're eating all these fish. I think maybe the place they're in is saying, hey, no more fishing, or since they're doing so many seasons there, they don't want them actually destroying the environment type of thing. That could be one of the issues. Or maybe, like I said, this season they've been kind of making them feel the pain a little bit more of the elements and not giving them fire. Caleb just got fire after 9 days. I thought it was funny too. We talk about camp life. I know you guys maybe don't like Bruce. I think he's kind of funny. When he was like,
that was funny.
I think he's awesome.
That was hilarious.
I got a zip. I laughed out loud. That was really fun.
Yeah.
We got to do something. Yeah, I do like him a lot. Maybe we move to, so I know we've talked about that they did a tribe swap. Jeff said this was the first new era tribe swap that they've done, which is, I don't know why that struck me as weird. Like, just that he called it the new era. Like, I know he has, but so it just was weird hearing him say it, I guess. This is the new era of tribe swap thing. And I think it had to happen.
And do we, by new era, does he mean the 90-minute episodes?
No, he means after 40.
Is that what this new era means?
After season 40.
Oh, so after 40.
Changed, so they changed like 26 days, and like they changed some of the things, but it really, I mean, if you look at it, it's more than just like the length of time that they're doing it. It's really like a marker of we did 39 seasons. The 40th season was all winners. And so we crowned a winner that had gotten it twice. I love that Tony got it twice. I don't think that's as good as what Sandra did, getting it twice. I have to put that out there because she did it without everybody already being a winner, right? So different. So that was like that's like a marker. That's like if you're looking on a history board, right? And they're showing like that first era, and then it's like the definite split, and now we're in this new stage.
Oh, I see.
And so it definitely feels new. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, I was going to say, if you look at the old seasons of Survivor, the game is so different now. They used to have one immunity idol, one hidden immunity idol. Yes. Now they have all these twists, and the game starts day one, and people are thinking of the end. And it just wasn't like that when Survivor first started. When Survivor first started, it was all about your alliance, sticking with your alliance as far as you can go with it. And it was the most honorable player who never lied won, generally. And then things started to change, and you saw other players do different things, like Poverty with, kind of her, gameplay. And then you saw like kind of Cochran coming in with more of an intellectual. And then really it was the introduction of all these twists that really started to change the game and really started to change how people play and think about it. And it's now, we talked about this, it's much more about strategy. It's much more about who can do the biggest moves, more than how long did you stick with your alliance, or how many tribal councils, or how many challenges did you win? It's much more about how dynamic of a player you are. Right. And how, and the relationships. Yeah.
So I got a question that could maybe go around the table here is like, do you think the game is solved? Is it like the smartest person wins? Is it the most physical person wins? Is the game solved so much because we have like you said, a season that all winners were already on the show, and this is the new era of that? Is the game solved?
No, I mean, I don't think so. And I was actually thinking about this watching Survivor and Big Brother, at the same time, is like, you've got the people that come out the gate like Caleb, where it's like clear, he's a leader, he's strong, but then everyone's looking at him like, well, don't be too good at the game. And then you have like floaters or people who are just kind of skating by, maybe like, a Jay Maya who's like, really, it's like, what are we doing here? Right. And then, so it's like, you have to play this kind of middle ground, but I think when you're in the moment, it's very hard to see. Even like someone like Bruce or Sifu, like they're, part of the reason why I think producers like them is they have big personalities. They love to be the center of attention. But when they're out there having that awareness of like, you really got to play this middle ground, and it's different every season with every different tribe. So I think it's very hard to navigate. It's like, I was just thinking about it this morning. I was like, how do you play a game where you don't want to be too strong, but you don't want to be too weak? You don't want to coast, but you don't want to run things. Like, how do you do it? I think it's very difficult. I think Survivor is the hardest, obviously, of the three big CBS reality shows, right? Don't you think?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Bree, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, we've moved new era. We've got these new things. The game is definitely faster. I think, there are the big players that came in, like you mentioned, Alex, Poverty and Johnny Fair Play was like, dastardly deeds. That's just what I think of him. Like, that's what he did. And then you get the Russell Hantz, who's just like the really evil villain that like we can almost, join hands together and hate all of this. Like it. So, they all put their mark. They all were part. I look at it like it's this stream, right? It started out as a stream. It was flowing along, and then like we had some rain showers that came in, and then people would drop new things in the water that would change the trajectory or change the flow of the stream. And it became this river. And it's like every time somebody does anything that's that massive, has that much of an impact on the game, it changes and it evolves and it grows. And so it's not just what like Jeff and the producers are doing, it's also what the players are bringing to it and finding things. Like, you know, they brought in immunity idols and then they started finding them without even having clues, right? So then they had to go in and make it harder. And now they're doing, you know, I loved it when they introduced the stuff where you have to sneak into somebody else's camp and stuff and do these things. I thought that was so cool. Like I want to see maybe they'll do that this season. I don't know, but I think that would be really, really cool. So I think all of these little things, not just the way the producers want it to run, but they're like maneuvering through that and taking all of that in, and then that's how they go forward. So it all plays an impact on what we're seeing now. But there's definitely this new era of it's faster, it's stronger, the things are tougher. I don't feel like the challenges are tougher than they were. I still think Australia has us on that. I think that their challenges are way more difficult than anything else. So but I think that it's like it's just a new way. You have to be faster. But here's the one thing I was going to point out. I was going to say it last week because they mentioned it a little bit last week, was I saw something where they said these are all new puzzles.
Oh yeah,
We're not going to let any of you like 3D print them and figure them out ahead of time.
So funny.
So I did want to mention that last week and we hadn't mentioned it, but I was just like, yep, they're like definitely making sure they're changing things a bit to keep people on their toes. They're like, all right, you guys figured that out. Now we have to be better and we have to do it differently. So yeah, I think yeah.
Well, just to finish the topic of you know, the winner, I think every winner in some ways redefines the game. I think Carolyn redefined the game with how outgoing and how, you know, infectious she was. And I think even Jam Jam, you know, changed the game too with his style of interacting with people. Jam Jam would not have won at the beginning, you know, of this season. He probably would have been voted off because he was not you know, physical. It was all about, you know, physicality and voting off the weak at the beginning. So I do think every single time there's a winner, you know, Gabler redefined the game too, like his strategy of winning. So I think it's always evolving. And I think just the number of people, the different dynamics, how they cast it, every season is new to me. Some seasons are better than others, but I do think every season, you know, is informative of how to win the game in a different way.
Yeah.
Sure.
One thing back to camp life that I thought was pretty dastardly, and I would have liked to have seen the reaction, was from Julie and I think Dee, right?
Yes.
Breaking into Sean's bag.
Yes.
And it would have been nice to have seen Sean catch them in the act and then get a little bit of drama going there. But I'm curious how that got set up and how that worked out.
I did not love it. I mean, that was my.
I never love it.
I don't love it. I mean, it like that has to feel so bad if you do catch them. You know, it's like that tribe.
There needs to be some sanctity in
it was,
like, don't touch.
Yeah, you hardly get to bring anything. It's like his shoes and his socks. Like, what is out? You know, what is there? And to just be, you know, okay, so it's like shoes in, you know, upside down, and then the socks, and we tie it like that. It's like, oh my gosh, like that would really upset me personally. And I feel like there has to be, I don't know, I guess some kind of
civility,
right? That's it, right?
Yeah.
Like something. I mean, yeah, I did not like that move at all. I was kind of disappointed. Anybody else?
It does make you think, like, at least my brain went to, well, what if this was like 100% real? Who's getting knocked over the head first? You know what I mean? Because you want to lower your numbers so there's more resources, more food, more things, you know, if you're stuck in a situation like that.
Well, I can't recall a single situation where they actually looked through somebody's bag and then they found something. I can't recall one. And just a correction to make earlier, I said that Dee said, you know, a bad tribe swap will show you who's a good player. It was actually Kelly. It was actually Kelly who said that. And because we've been talking about how Kelly's a great player, and now she's on a new tribe, and I think she's the only one on that tribe.
Well, let's get into the new tribes. I've got Lulu. I know. I put all these. I love that we have these
this.
characters.
This is great. Look, this is so great.
I even put a buff on Bruce's head because that's what he does.
That's so funny.
What do we think about this? What do we like in this? Are we liking this tribe?
Strong tribe.
Seems like the strongest. Yeah.
Very
it's gonna
strong
say
tribe.
strongest.
From the worst to the best. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, they're definitely looking good right now. Caleb's like, what's it like to be on Lulu and have Lulu be the best? Yeah, they killed that, competition last night.
I love that challenge too that they did of lifting the giant cage.
How fun was that?
That was a cool.
More of that, please. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
That was
I was
really
thinking
cool.
about, yeah, through that process, I was thinking, man, what if you just stepped on some coral? Just something nasty was down there, and you're having to lift that huge cage, and you fall down. Oh,
yeah.
I've stepped off in enough coral, being in the ocean, that I can imagine you got to be very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did some digging on Caleb because I really like him, and he's really shining. Like I feel like he's really in his element now because of this new tribe swap. It worked to his benefit. I think people were immediately drawn to him. He is just working it. He's so good at it. Did you know that he was a camp counselor and a lifeguard?
Mm-mm.
Yep.
That's interesting.
He
said that when he did the tribe swap, he said, this is like the golden retriever at the dog park. And he does have like that golden retriever energy. And he has these Caleb has these really big eyes. And they seem to just like stare right into people. And he almost has this King George effect of like, he hypnotizes people. He draws people in and they just want his approval about things. Like Jake was an example of that. Like,
yeah,
Jake had no reason to go. I mean, he's such a stronger player and he goes over and he just, gushes to him, because he wants to be his best friend. So Caleb has this weird kind of hypnotizing ability.
He does.
And he's a good
winning over.
He's very perceptive.
He's winning over that home audience for sure. I liked how he winked whenever they showed the basketball challenge, shooting the baskets. He's like, "I got this." Like
he played basketball in college, so yeah, that makes sense.
He's confident.
So, there you go. Confidence is key.
Yeah,
if they're
he's
smart,
really
they're gonna get
it.
him off. Yeah.
If they're smart, I have him in my final three, and I just think Caleb, it's that looking into their eyes so they know they're heard, because that's really important, right? It's not just like I'm paying attention, but like
validating,
I'm hearing you.
Yes,
validating you. But then it's the smile that he brings to it that just like is like a big warm hug to the people that he's talking to, and so they're just like, oh, I want more of this, please bring me more. And so that's, I think, that's why he's great in sales. That's why, because he makes you feel so important and so heard and so respected. And he's extremely smart. He's got all these, he knows what he's doing. I dug into his LinkedIn. I mean, I couldn't help it. I wanted to see, like, what was he about, right? And like, he doesn't do anything over there, but he does have his stuff in there. So I was like, oh, what is he all about? And what is he doing? And why is he so good at this? And I'm just seeing the things that he's done and how much money he's made for companies and how great he is working with people. And that's where he shines. So it makes a lot of sense. What I want to talk about Bruce before we move on. I want to talk about Bruce for a second. So we saw Bruce he got moved to Lulu, same beach that that he was on when he was there before. It was really affecting him.
Yeah.
When he got there, I personally, before I put because I don't know, I was still drinking coffee. It was early this morning. I was putting two and two together. I was trying to put two and two together why he was so emotional. I thought that he took a look at the shelter and was so crushed by how bad it was that he was crying.
He was like, no, please.
Oh, it just worked so hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no, it was because of that. What did you guys think of that? Like that, I thought that was pure, like true emotion.
I did think that was definitely. And I think that when you go through something, I mean, in all of these situations, so easy to criticize people, say, oh, you're only there for 12 hours, or why can't Brandon get up the ladder? Or why is Hannah quitting? But it's like, it's hard to put yourself in that position. And for Bruce, who really wanted to play, clearly he wants to play the game. That had to have been incredibly hard for him. And even though you feel like you've made your peace with it, I think that when you come back to the environment where a certain thing happened, wherever it fell on the level of trauma or, whatever difficult situation for you, it can bring, I don't even think maybe he was expecting that it was going to make him so emotional. So I do like you were saying, Brie, I think we got to see really Bruce, like underneath it all for a minute, and then he, shook it off and kept going. But I mean, I bought it. I don't think he was trying to do anything for sympathy or anything.
No, he said that he did it because if he bottled it up, then he'd be kind of giving a weird vibe off, and people are like, what's going, and he is this outgoing. He wants to make people laugh and feel good, and he's also older in a very young game, and so part of that extroversion or being the funny guy is part of him trying to relate to younger people and to give some sort of value, and so it was an interesting moment. It caught me off guard too. I was like, what
why is he crying? I mean, it's also you miss everybody, and I mean, that's part of I think going back to what Bruce saying about Caleb or Julie or somebody, it's like they're filling voids for people who are out there on their own. So there's just the emotion of being out there anyway. I'm sure emotions just run high in general, and then seeing the beach and everything, it just it took him down for a minute. But it kind of came out of nowhere. But I could understand why he would have been feeling that way. And I think it's good, that he let it out instead of bottling it up.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris over there humming us. What do you got, Fred?
I don't know how genuine it was, because I think in the tribe it might have been genuine, but the confessional was that he's ready to stab people in the back. So I think he was giving off this impression like that he's not a threat by doing that, but he's clearly plotting, scheming, and ready to stab everybody in the back to get up. And they are not they're the strongest tribe, but they're not the most cohesive tribe. Personality-wise, strong personalities across the board. And, with Katura and him at odds, there's a lot up to evaluation and ready for someone to just pull the rug out from under someone within that group. And Reba could win an immunity challenge, and but I think it's hard to say whether Lulu would go down against Bello, or vice versa. Well, that's where I see that Bruce's personality and arrogance and the things that are really shine out through him. He wants the attention at all times. He wants everybody to be looking at him. And so then that dynamic doesn't help him, right? As far as like being a team player, they just think of him as like like an authority or like a coach. And, chaos is better than order, I feel like, in this regard. So like it's either him or Caleb that they have to get rid of eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not calling him Uncle anymore, or whatever they were calling Bruce before.
Well, you have Kat that is so against Bruce. They had the kind of little montage of her just droning on and on about how much she doesn't like Bruce for what reason. It's kind of, and then she's really close to Caleb, and that relationship between Caleb and Kat makes a lot of sense. And then Jake is kind of maybe the swing vote on that, right? Is he going to stay with Bruce and they're going to bro out, or is he going to go with Caleb and Kat?
I would think he'll probably try to stay with Bruce. And I think the other thing with him is you see it with returning players all the time. And then probably especially somebody like Bruce, who left in a way that was, not the best last season, is like they want to prove themselves too. So you already have this guy who wants attention, who wants to be in charge, who wants to be funny, who wants to tell everybody what to do. And now he wants to prove, that he's not going to go out like he did last season. So it's like he's a big personality. But sometimes keeping those big personalities is a good thing, because the minute you take out the big threat, the big personality like a Sifu or a Bruce, who are taking a lot of the attention, now we have to start looking elsewhere. So like, all right, well, let's get rid of somebody else. I don't know. Getting rid of either one of them is like, to me, is so early. I don't know why you would do it yet. And they don't, especially Sifu, really, he doesn't have any kind of pull. At least Bruce has Jake, where you would look and say, I want to keep an eye on that,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, Caleb's been friends with all
on
of them. So Caleb made friends with all of them like he did. He was like,
of course he did.
Pat's on her own. She's doing her own thing. She pulled me aside. She told me everything I needed to know because he mentioned that.
Yeah.
And that's his new Emily, right? So he's like, I'm not going to put myself in any position yet. And I'm going to get as much information as I can. And we saw how that worked out for Emily because when we started episode 1, it looked clearly like it was Caleb and Sabaya.
Yeah.
And that like
that's
they were
what I was
going to
supposed
go. And then Emily was like, we got to get her out. But then Caleb was like, no, I can use this and I know how to work with this. And I will train her to be what she can be.
I can't believe I'm rooting for her. I am though.
I'm not still, but go ahead.
You're not.
You go ahead.
No.
I can't help it. In the beginning, I know like her true color still might come out, and it's only been 8 days in the game. Like I think to myself, it's been longer, and it's like for her to change as much as she has in such a short amount of time. She really listened to Caleb, even the way she approached everything with Drew and Austin. Like she's trying. I mean, it's so hard to change who you fundamentally are. So I think it's going to be a challenge. But I also, one of my favorite things about Survivor is watching the growth in someone like a Cochran, like someone who's like, you would not expect that he would be the one sitting in the end and winning or something like that. Or somebody like, Boston Rob, who was like fighting for his victory for so long or whatever. I mean, I just love a good journey. I love a good story. And I really didn't think I was going to get on board with Emily, but I can't help it. I'm like, come on, keep going, keep listening to Caleb. If she ends up continuing to follow what he taught her, like imagine the two of them in the end, but she wins. Like, good.
I was
gonna say that.
thoughts on this. So before we get to that, I want to like go through the other tribes really quick. Oh my gosh,
yes.
so much
one last thing. One last thing. So I was going to ask if you guys could put together a thought process here where what if they had to set up Caleb and they had to get rid of Caleb? How would it get done? And the way that I was thinking about, you mentioned it, he was close with Sabaya. He screwed Sabaya over, right? So people are still going to want to go back and figure out and dig that skeleton back up and figure out why did Caleb screw over Sabaya? Because they were supposedly the people who should have, at least from a competitive standpoint, should have been paired up, matched up, whereas Emily was one of the weak links. She was not one of the stronger links. But going into that and kind of segueing into it is that she called herself a straight shooter. I totally disagree with that. I think she's pretentious. I think that that group is pretentious, and that they will do the right thing, and up until they need to do something to stab someone in the back. So we already seen her stab people in the back. We haven't necessarily seen that from Drew or from Austin yet. Austin was in the preparation. They lied.
Yeah.
They lied, right? So that's there, but there hasn't been the consequences. Whereas the consequences have been real for the things that the decisions that Emily has made.
Mm-hmm. Well, what Emily said, the reason they voted off Sabaya was because she had the idol and she so blatantly played the idol in front of everybody that it was like she was too powerful, and so they had to vote her. That's what they said, but that was something that Emily said to her tribe, so it'll be interesting to see how Caleb justifies the vote, if it even comes up. But yeah.
I want to talk about Bella really quick. So we do have this here we are, right? I know. So I got all kinds of craziness going on here.
They're so good, these cartoons. Like I'm just looking at them like, yes, they're so accurate. Go ahead.
I do love them.
That's so funny.
With Emily, I wanted to talk about this. So she is really like the Austin Drew. That's their 3. They were like super tight now. Like they brought her in and stuff. I feel like, so if you've been the person for all of your life, if you've been the kind of person who really like doesn't get invited to parties and doesn't, they don't have a big circle of friends, and they've kind of had she's not very good socially until Caleb came and kind of helped her. So I feel like, because she said it, she was like, oh, and they said they wanted to work. I mean, I've been waiting for this. And that just made me think she's being a little naive. I think that she may get a little sucked into being now I'm part of the IT crew. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I did notice it. And I was like, okay, that's something. And then the other thing I wanted to mention about Emily, besides the fact that I ain't buying her shit, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I don't believe it. True. she said it. If you pay attention, she said it right in the beginning. A leopard can't change its spots.
Mhm.
So pay attention to that because she could just be fooling everybody. But I think what'll happen if this was the end game and it was down to Emily's vote, if she was the deciding vote whether Caleb went home or not at the end, like they're down and she has to like it's the final 5 or something and her vote decides who goes home. Who do you think? Do you think she'll vote Caleb out or she'll keep him?
I think she'd vote Caleb out for sure. I think she's strategic and she'd appreciate Caleb, but definitely vote him out. I do think it's a fun idea to have them both in the end.
I would love it.
Yeah.
Very, very Dan and Ian from Big Brother, where like the one that taught you how to play this game, you go to the end together. Like that would be such a great final 2. I don't know why I really just didn't think I would. And maybe she isn't being genuine, but if she can convince them that she's being genuine, and even the way Drew was like, everyone painted her as being this way, but she's actually very nice, and she also said at Tribal, I don't know when it was, one of the episodes, 1 or 2, that she said to Jeff, believe it or not, I do have friends back home. Like, I mean, she's out of her element. She's on the defensive. She came in wanting to play too hard, like so many other people. And so I don't know, like, I do feel like it would be great to kind of see her at the end. I don't know if she'll win, but whether she goes with Drew and Austin, whether she goes with Caleb, it would suck if she turns on Caleb, but you got to do what you got to do,
Well, I think Drew has it out for Caleb because he knows he's a big threat. He knows he's probably a more strategic player than him, and Drew thinks he is a very strategic player.
Drew does
and
think
so
he
him
is.
and Emily, I think Drew maybe has a little crush on Emily, a little nerd crush, and I think they do a little game crush, yeah. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere because he said Emily, this lady, he called her a lady because she's 28 and he's 22, so maybe it's not of interest
lady
to him,
I'd cry.
Yeah. Right. But I think and then Austin too, he's just a little bit like, dude, bro, and he's gonna hang out with Emily and Drew for a long time, so that could be a powerful enough alliance to take out, and they have so many advantages, right? Which Caleb, does he have an idol? I don't think he has anything, right? But I think to get Caleb out, there's also Kelly on the Lulu tribe, the new Lulu. And they didn't even kind of mention her dynamic within the Lulu tribe.
Yeah, her and Brando like faded in the
smart.
background in their own, in their respective tribes. That's kind of what they're doing. Sort of riding the middle ground.
The same thing happened with Kendra.
Basically. Oh yeah, she was like, bye. But hey, sometimes in those situations where it's, you're going to tribe swap, so suddenly everybody's looking around, that's a good time to just let's lay low and then we can kind of come back out. It's when people just lay low the whole season and you're like, what did you even do? But I do think there's something to be said for Kelly, Brando, Kendra, people like that. They're like, let me just hang back for, a couple of days. Let's get through the next tribal. And then, whereas Kat or J Maya right out the bat, we're like, hey, let's do this. It's like, all right, well, maybe not that either. But, I'm like Team Kelly too. So I'm hoping that, she comes out of this unscathed.
Yeah.
I mix up Sean and Brando when I was doing a reaction to it live, and I think Brando is probably the next weakest link as far as the show. Even though maybe there's some strategy with Kelly and Brando having teamed up or whatnot, but I think I think Brando's a weak link, and he's on Reba now, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? So,
no, he's on Bello.
Oh no, yeah.
He's on Bello. He's on Bello. So he's on Bello, right? That's right. So that being the Bello is not as strong as it once was. So Bello loses an immunity challenge. I think Brando goes home.
Yeah, it's kind of an easy vote there.
He would be, I agree with Alex. He would be an easy vote. So if nobody wants to rock the boat or do anything, fine, then they could get rid of him. But if they want to make a move, then they would want to, pull him in to swing it their way. It could definitely go either way. I hope he makes it, though. I want to see more from him, too.
Well, it kind of depends if Kendra and Emily can get along. Because I don't know if they're going to be able to get along. But Emily, since Brando's kind of a nerd, and Drew's kind of a nerd.
Yeah.
And Austin likes to think he's kind of a nerd. Then all 4 of those people could maybe team up to get, maybe Yeah,
The
maybe
smart
Kendra's
Aussie.
the
Well,
easy
Kendra's
vote.
very like, the astrology and and Emily's very
Right.
logic. So, I
Right.
mean, on the one hand, sort of like Drew and Austin, where you see two very different people who can come together and work together. I wonder if Emily and Kendra would be able to do that. But yeah, that's a really good point. It is going to depend on whether, like, what happens with their relationship. And they don't seem to have a lot in common. So we'll see if Emily's Caleb training will come in handy and she can adapt to get along with Kendra.
I was gonna get this joke off if Sean had not been voted off. I would have said that this had been the season for femboys. Him, Sean, and Brando could lasted all the way to the final five, and you actually had like not a strong male figure win the game, or even a female. The two Brando and Sean and the female cast. We've talked. I think I mentioned it before in our episodes that you could see a final five of all women. That would be incredible. And then it's a cat fight to the end, with literally cat involved probably towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kat seems a little bit, it seems like she has a hard time maybe getting along with people. I mean, she got along great with Caleb because he's so receptive, right? And maybe thoughtful on how to deal with her. But yeah, we talked about that last episode, the alpha females. Seems like we have a lot of strong females and they're all pretty quick. It seems like the guys are kind of, in their own world and not playing as hard as the women for sure.
Who made the biggest?
And there's not a
move
lot of strong physical threats either. Sorry, go ahead, Bree.
No, I'm just gonna say. So, who do we think made the biggest move this week? Who did Who was the biggest either new alliance that they got into or thing that they did? What do we think it is for this week?
I mean, I think both Caleb and Emily, solidifying their position, and I mean, it'd be very easy to target either one of them. And unlike Sean, who cried and went to Ponderosa, like those two just adapted, and that's what the game is about: is adapting, to the environment around you and surviving. And I feel like right now, Caleb and Emily are like embodying what this game is about. So I think they made the best moves and are sitting in fairly decent positions, in their respective tribes.
Bree?
Oh, me? Yeah, I think, well, we saw more of Caleb's move, so I think, he was really, really strategic and strong with that. I just, because he immediately, like, he talked to Bruce and he talked to them on that side of things. But when Kat came to him, he was also very receptive and open. And so I think he gained the most information, quite possibly. We didn't see whether Emily, even though she was brought in, was made aware of any of the things that they have going over there. So, I mean, they said they wanted to work with her. We also didn't see a lot of it. So I don't know, but I feel like for amount of information melding in with the group and becoming part of the group right away between those two, I think Caleb won that for me as far as biggest move, because he did all the right things to get as much information, and information is the most important thing there. So that would be my pick.
What do you think, Trent?
Yeah, I was going through it and I thought this show, as far as meat and potatoes throughout the show, wasn't really there. I mean, we didn't have a reward challenge, so it was, nobody got big takeaways. But the conversation between Kat and Kendra about what was up with Bruce, that I felt, even though it fell flat, still is lingering, and I thought that the initiative by Kat to speak and figure out what happened, and I forgive me, what I forgot what they call it when the boat picks you up, but what happened on the island, the satellite island, and for Bruce to say that he wasn't lying, but I think half truths are white lies or whatever, not telling the full truth is a little bit telling. And I don't think Kat's, done with pursuing more information around that.
I think the biggest move, because it is a tribal, right? So it was kind of made by J. Maya, but it wasn't successful. So it wasn't really a big move. I think
Right.
Drew and Austin teaming up with Emily with all the advantages that they have, I think might be the biggest move. But there wasn't a lot of action on this just because the tribe swap was so kind of enticing. They had to give everybody their moment, and then tribal. So it's probably Jay Maya if she was successful, but she wasn't. So maybe it's Drew and Austin pulling Emily in.
Yeah, everything kind of fell flat. All the the twists and turns that it could have been there just like didn't come to fruition. At least in this episode. But I think that the very end was so like it punched you in the gut. Sean says he's just gonna quit. Like you're just like, and it leaves you kind of nasty to figure out, well, what's gonna happen on the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still think there should be a penalty besides the fact that Jeff says lose my number and don't come back. It's just like, I know you don't know until you're there to really know what you're going to go through, but think it through a little bit. Like just because you got asked to be on Survivor, should you really be there? Because it's we see how hard it is. It really is that hard. Maybe they need to do a pre-test. I don't know, something.
Well, they don't always also just apply for Survivor. Like they're in the mix for all three, for Survivor, Big Brother, and The Amazing Race. And sometimes they end up on the show that was not their first choice, but they, but I think I was saying last episode, right? Like they think to themselves, well, I could come back for a future season. I could end up on a different CBS show. Maybe I'll end up on The Challenge because now MTV has moved over to CBS, to Paramount and whatever. So, maybe some of them had a different idea in mind, but again, okay, so you got picked for Survivor. You have to know. Go sleep outside for a night. See, this is why I would never do it, because I just know. I'd cry. I would be Hannah leaving. I'd be like, send me to Ponderosa, please. And don't send me to Redemption Island. I will lose it.
Exactly.
I kind of want to comment on the production a little bit here. I like how they're selling these shows that CBS is doing. I like these commercials. They're fun to see. The buddy games looks hilarious.
Yeah.
And, just a bunch of, I remember playing those games in college and stuff like that. And tailgates and things like that, and then seeing some of the dynamics. Obviously that's not as as difficult, I feel, like we mentioned earlier in this episode about how Survivor is probably the most challenging show or the challenge, right? These other shows that are a little bit more I don't know, you're in the elements of it all, but that game looks fun. And so I like how that they're propositioning, hey, you like this? Check this out. This is even crazier. And The Amazing Race after Survivor was interesting, and continuations and whatnot. But we won't get into all that. If you want to watch another show, we'll put another show together.
That's right.
The Buddy Games podcast.
Before we run out of time, I got a couple of things left on my plate that I wanted to talk about. I want to give how do we like Jeff this week? Everybody can vote. 5 torches being the best. What are we thinking on Jeff? Alex,
what do you think? Alex,
yeah.
Alex got a face like you got something to say.
Well, he could have. I think when Sean was quitting, and it was a quit. He, like you said, he really doesn't like quitters. But his story and that he really gave a reason. Jeff was kind of soft on him, but. Yeah, I think Jeff maybe should have come down a little bit harder and said, "Less like we were saying here today. Yeah. What was the expectation coming out here? That you weren't going to be away from your now things change and you're dehydrated." And I think Jeff was right in his assessment of this is kind of just in the moment right now. And after you get some food in your belly and some sleep, you'll probably feel different about it. And I was thinking too, in Sean's relationship, maybe his husband is the one who makes the money, because he's a principal. Right. He's not making a ton of money. His husband's like, "What are you doing? We needed the money, So I think Jeff should make it clear to people, this is unacceptable. And if you do it, we're going to kind of humiliate you a little bit because we've just seen this so many times. And like I said, what was the expectation coming out here that you, like Jeff said it, did you not expect to be away from your husband for 39 days? Is this news?
Right.
And in the audience too, I wanted to see Sean play. I mean, I like Sifu. I wanted him to stay, but that would have been a good play. And you're kind of degrading the quality of the show by making these selfish decisions. And people could say, "Oh, it's not selfish. It's their life. They can do what they want to do." millions of people watch this show. It's been on for 45, it's been on for a long time. There's a lot of money that goes into producing this.
People that want to do this too.
There's hundreds of people who want to do it.
More
it's not just you in your life and seeing your husband for 15 more days. Are you really going to remember that?
That's really what it is. You're right.
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks. You didn't see your husband for 2 weeks. I understand you're sad. I want to see, my friends and my family all the time too. But life happens, right? You got to do things. And you made a commitment and you made a promise to be here. And like I said, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of fans. There's a lot of, things that go into the show more than just you, Sean. I'm not in Sean. I like you. You're a nice guy, but it is what it is. Same for Hannah.
So how many torches? How many torches? Sorry, Trent, 1 sec.
No. Where's
4 torches?
Okay.
Wow.
I'm gonna lead with
first 4 torch.
I'm gonna lead and say 4 torches as well, but I kind of want to derail a little bit because we didn't talk about this, and I think this is present with what he's saying is like Bruce was talking about fame outside Survivor and being doubted. Oh, you weren't on the show. You didn't do that, and then you end up being the socialite of your town. Because these people come from all over the world, from all sorts of different backgrounds. You go back to your small Midwest town or whatnot. You are the celebrity of the city. You go to any bar, people buy you drinks. Yeah. They want to talk to you. They want to know everything that happened during your experience. But understandably so, I think, is that there's a huge emotional, weather. You're getting weathered by the elements. You're getting beat down. Obviously, it's a pristine area. Like it's amazing to be out there on the islands, but you don't have any shelter. You don't have any of these things. It starts to mess with your head. Then you're like, can I last 2 weeks? Or whatnot. And it's some of it's understandable, but it's also the opportunity. Just to throw it away like that to get so much and then opportunity, but lose Jeff's number or whatnot. There's, I don't know, maybe there's another opportunity for Sean. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you say, Gina?
I guess I'm going to give him 4 torches as well. I know he said, talking about Brandon earlier, Jeff was saying in the early seasons, I was the voice of the viewers and now I don't need to be because of social media and they're going to do a number on them. But I do feel like you, as the host, you should give them a little bit of a harder time. I mean, my favorite host to get on people's cases when they quit is TJ Lavin on The Challenge. Like, he hates it. He gets so mad. He's literally like, GTFO, like, get out of here, like, swears at them, tells them to get out. Like, he gets so mad at them. He's like, I hate a loser. And I think it's because TJ, suffering from a very serious accident and coming back from it, he knows what it means to go through a very difficult time. So he doesn't have sympathy like, bro, you're out here on a TV show. Like, like life could be a lot worse and you're giving up here. So I would have liked to see, usually, I'm a Jeff stan. I like to always give him 5 torches. But now this is the second person to quit and he's kind of like, yeah, I get it. It's like, no, 4 torches, Jeff, 4. And if you do it again, it's going to be 3.
I'm giving him 3. I'm going right into it. I'm sorry.
Get him.
But I didn't like the way it went down. I mean, he did give him a little bit of, oh, it's my husband. And I got a lot out of the show and stuff. But like you guys are saying, all of these things, it's such a short amount of time. It's not even 30 days anymore, right? It's such a short amount of time. And you couldn't make it another 2 weeks. You weren't complaining about how the team got decimated, how you haven't had fire, how you're probably not eating a whole lot. You didn't even, none of that seems to be a problem for you because you seem to be doing well at challenges and everything else. It's you just miss, you're homesick? Really?
You
it's not
kid at
even
summer
that
camp?
long. Spring, that break between when you're at college and you go home for the holidays and you don't go back till late January. It's it's not that long. You can make it through. It's just to me the thing that pissed me off the most was the reason behind it, and that really made me mad. And I was just like, Jeff, you got to bring a little bit, because I know that he said that about the fans, and we saw 3 people left on Lulu that all went to different tribes. We saw 3 people have to try to assimilate into those tribes. And Caleb did it and Emily did it. And Sean seemed to be okay. Even if he was just going to get voted out, that's fine. But like, don't quit like that. Don't do that. Don't give me that. It was very disappointing. I think Jeff should definitely, I don't think Jeff, and he's done this before. I don't think he should put their torch out. I think he should toss it in the fire. Like, remember when he would do that? Like, you don't. I'm not get this.
I'm not saying yes.
You don't get that. There are things that you lose when you do that.
Yeah,
it would make us as the viewers say, yes, Jeff is pissed off too, and you don't get that. Yeah, I really think that he should be. That's what I would do.
I'm on board now. 3 torches. I'm on team Bree.
Thank you.
3 torches. Throw it in the fire. Don't snuff it. Don't say anything. That's right.
Yeah,
okay, you don't get anything. You don't get those things.
Yeah, they let him have his swan song. His big, overture to who he, his whatever. And it's a good moment for him, not a bad.
Do you guys think that maybe what Jeff is missing here is that I don't know if CBS would allow him to do this, but they have to be able to figure this out, how to make a call to action so that we can hear more from him through the podcast. Because I don't think they're promoting the podcast enough.
No, they're
because
not.
Maybe he does go into that in depth. Maybe he goes into like, this is how I really was feeling, and this is what I would have really said, except we're on, national television, and I can't say this. You know what I mean?
Bree, I don't care. Bree said, I don't care. Tell him in the moment.
But I mean, he doesn't have to say mean things. He doesn't have to say those things. No. You just don't get these things. This is what accountable. You lose. Yeah. If you're gonna quit like that and you're gonna say, I don't want to be here, take me out. I think Jeff should be like, if that's what you're gonna do. And we don't see all of Tribal. It lasts for a very long time. There's a lot of things we didn't hear. I get that. But if that's the way you're gonna be about it, then I think that you lose certain privileges, which is getting your torch snuffed, because that's like, we've seen people go, oh, this is the cool, like, it is really that cool when it happens to you, like, you're like, yay. But, like, you get to have them say it to you personally, right?
It's a moment.
No, you're done. You're done. You don't get that. Get out, throw the torch, see ya. So I think, and that is enough of a statement without him having to like say anything.
I agree.
So that's
we can't have Jeff go to 0 torches, man, because then we got to replace him.
Whoa!
I know. Well, JLP.
Problems. Funny.
One thing I want to talk about. We always miss things, but we saw Jake Follian in the previews, right? For next week. Do we see that? What's going on?
Yep.
Just are we missing something and who he is, or just he not know how to drink water? I don't understand. What's going on?
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. It seemed like another neurological thing for him. Maybe he does have something kind of underlying his health condition, because it was like another weird, his body stiffs up and he falls forward type of thing.
He's like a velociraptor.
Yeah.
With little arms.
Face forward in the fire. Yeah.
I hope he's okay.
Bless his heart. Bless his heart,
I want him to be
scary.
Okay.
That's so scary.
Yeah, it could be seizures. He could be having, a little.
Oh, it's really, it's scary.
It's really
all
scary.
Joking. Yeah,
seizures.
I hope it's okay. He's okay.
We don't want to make fun of him.
No, definitely
no. I got a story for that one. I'll have to tell you guys off the air about a crazy thing that I saw one time when something like that happens. But no, and they're on an island that if there's any like serious medical, that needs to happen, like I don't know where the chopper's coming from, but like they're gonna have to evacuate him and get him off the island.
Yeah, I think after Mike fell in the fire, they have stuff always there at that was like season 2, right? So like I think they've always got that in the back of their mind. It's the last thing CBS needs right now is to have something serious happen to anybody. But it's unfortunate. I like Jake. I think he's a good. And then he gets me with his WADA. Whatever.
Yeah.
He's
I
cool.
think I thought it was funny for them. Not fun. It's not funny, but it is funny that they did a cut scene back to Bruce on the island, and that broom, that umbrella gets me every time. the little umbrella that they have him under, and he's sitting there like,
Yeah.
like in this pose. It looks so funny to me. I don't know why, because it's a terrible realistic. In reality, like nobody should go through that, but it looks like they're trying to bring somebody back from the dead because it's all black and white, and, and he's just passed out there under that little umbrella.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so we got looks like we got a good episode again next week. We'll see how these play out. Any favorite for like who do you think Reba will lose again in the challenge, immunity challenge?
I'd say Bello before Reba, just with the current setup. Obviously, Lulu's so strong right now.
Yeah, they're looking good.
Yeah. Bello could definitely lose, and then we could see. We were talking about either Kendra or Brando being up next, so that's a definite possibility
for sure. All right, guys, had a blast. Always fun. Catch us next week. We're here live every Thursday. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate having you guys here.
See you next week.
Join Maxer.
Join Maxer. Yeah, join our Maxer community. max3r.com. Anyway, we got to do a promo for that. See you guys.
Bye.